What's up guys, Meredith with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we are checking out this ReadyLift 4-inch SST suspension lift kit fitting all 2019 and newer four-wheel drive Sierra 1500s excluding the Denali and the AT4 models. If you are looking for an easy way to achieve a more aggressive 4-inch lift in the front of your Sierra to fit a set of 35-inch tires or to just get some better ground clearance for your truck, this is going to do just the trick. Compared to replacing some of those larger suspension components that may come with extra cost or extra work, this will allow you to maintain mostly all of your factory suspension if you're happy with your OE set or you're looking to save a few bucks on a more mild system. This 4-inch lift opens up a lot of opportunity for your Sierra no matter what you use it for. Regardless of whatever terrain you're on, this will level out the stance with a 4-inch lift in the front and taking it down a notch at a 3-inch lift in the rear for a more defined appearance, and it's going to allow you up to a 35-inch tire no matter if it's for the look or for off-road performance. I do want to mention that ReadyLift does state that the suspension system was developed using a 35 by 11.5-inch tire with a 20 by 9-inch wheel and a 0mm offset. Now, if you are going to mount up a wider tire, you may need more offset or need to do some trimming, so just keep that in mind. Now, if you are taking your Sierra off-road at all for fire trails or anything tougher, this kit is also going to greatly improve your ground clearance, allowing your truck to clear obstacles that you may have previously come in contact with. I think the best part about this kit is the inclusion of the control arms and bump stop extensions as well as shock extensions to maintain some of that comfort in the ride quality, although it will be a little bit different. Breaking down the construction, the front strut spacers here and the rear lift blocks will be made of a tough steel, and the preload spacers as well as the bump stop extensions are going to be made of a billet aluminum construction, so you can ensure that everything here is going to hold up for the long run, especially with the zinc plated steel hardware. Now, I would like to mention that the front strut spacer at the tallest point is going to measure out to roughly 2 inches and the preload spacer at about 1 inch. However, the suspension geometry combined with spring compression will achieve that 4 inches of lift in the front. The rear blocks, however, will be true to size at 3 inches because they are going to be mounted on a solid axle. The star of the show here is definitely the DOM steel tubed upper control arms with the heavy duty ball joints in either arm and TCT maintenance free pivot bushings. So it sounds like a lot, but these ball joints are going to be angled correctly for the correct caster for that increase in height to maintain good drivability and reduce excessive wear, and you can grease them to keep the life going with the Zerk fitting right on top. Not to mention the kit will come with everything that you need in order to get this installed, and it's also going to come with steel shock extensions for the rear to make sure that everything is maintaining that height and traveling properly, and you're not going to have to do any drilling or modification to get this installed, which is probably the best part. This kit will be more on the affordable side for the size, coming in at roughly $1,000. Now, when shopping around for lift kits, usually the price kind of aligns with the inclusivity of the kit. This will be right in the middle, being a more aggressive lift height that requires more components than the average spacer lift. Now, it's not going to include every single bell and whistle compared to some more expensive choices that include complete suspension replacements, but it is going to come with the components to enhance your factory ones, which is a great compromise when upgrading your suspension. Again, if you're happy with the components that you currently have on your truck, or you simply want to save some cash. This will be a 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, so I would recommend some mechanical experience with this, or to take your truck to a trusted shop. For them or for you, if you do have the experience, it's probably going to take you about 5 hours to get the job done with the right tools and the right setup. Now, at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown, whether you want a guide at home to do this or you're just interested in the install. So that is going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
For this install, you will need a pry bar, a breaker bar, air and electric impacts, various ratchets, various size extensions, a swivel adapter, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, 18, 21, and 22 millimeter sockets, 8 millimeter Allen wrench, 14, 15, 17, and 18 millimeter ratchet wrenches, 21 and 22 millimeter wrenches, a ball joint service tool, a bungee cord, a ball peen hammer, and not shown here is a jack and jack stands or some pole jacks. What's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a lift kit on our Sierra, so let's get started. So we're gonna get things started at the front end here, and we've got our truck in the air, we've got our wheels off, and the first thing we're gonna do is need to remove the brake and ABS line brackets from our knuckle. So we'll grab our 10 mil socket on our ratchet, go ahead and pop the 10 millimeter bolts out holding those in place, and go ahead and pull those out of their locators just so we don't add any excess tension to those when we move our knuckle out of the way. So we're also going to remove the bracket from our control arm as well because we will be pulling our control arm off. We'll go ahead and pop that. Get that out of the way. Then we're going to set these bolts right back into their respective areas just so we don't lose track of them. Now we've got everything off, it's loose. We have one more on the back side that we also have to take off. Now this next one's pretty hard to see from your angle, but it's directly behind the knuckle here where your ABS cable crosses over behind your knuckle. And again, that's a 10 mil socket on a ratchet. Just gonna pop that 10 mil bolt out. Now everything's free and clear, nothing's gonna get caught up. So next we're gonna go ahead and remove our sway bar end link from our lower control arm here. So we're gonna pop the nut off that's holding it to the lower control arm using an 18 mil socket on our impact. We'll go ahead and pull that up and out. Just make sure it's not going to catch on anything once your control arm drops. Next, we can go ahead and remove the outer tie rod from the knuckle. So we'll grab a 21 mil socket on our impact, remove the nut, and then we're going to use a ball joint service tool to go ahead and pop this out from its seat. Now there are various ones, depending on which one you have, it's going to determine which tools you need to operate it. Now we can go ahead and loosen up the mounting nut for our upper ball joint. Now we're not going to fully remove it just yet. We're just going to back it out some. So we'll grab our 18 mil socket on our impact and loosen that up. Make sure that's still on there, a couple threads. Now if you notice, our ball joint just happened to kind of pop out of its seat because it's pretty well lubricated and also pretty new. That usually will not happen when you're doing this at home. You're going to have to kind of apply some pressure to get it out. Now you can either use, like we use for our tie rod, a ball joint service tool, or for this one you can use a ball peen hammer and go ahead and give it a few taps on the outside of the seat here, and that should pop it free. But again, this nut is here to catch that so it doesn't just fly out and your knuckle falls off, and you don't want that to happen. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our two lower strut mounting bolts, and we'll grab our 15 mil socket on our impact to do that. So now before we fully remove our upper ball joint nut here, we're going to grab a bungee cord, wrap it around the top of the knuckle, and hook it over here on the frame somewhere. You just don't want to go to the actual brake line, but the bracket is fine. We'll go ahead and do that. Now we're going to take a pry bar, apply a little bit of pressure downward on the upper control arm so we can relieve the tension on this nut, and go ahead and take that off and separate our upper ball joint from our knuckle and kind of swing this back to the side. So now in order to get your top mounting nuts for your strut off, we're gonna need to go ahead and move this little harness pathway out of the way. Now it is plastic, it's pretty flexible, and there's also a smaller little tab covering our rear strut stud there. So what we're gonna do is take a pry bar and we're gonna gently move this over top of our studs here. As you can see, this does move. We just wanna get it up to where we can move it around like so. We're not gonna break it or do anything like that. And then we're gonna do the same thing for that rear little cap. We're just gonna pop it right off of the stud there. Then you do want to exercise caution doing this. Now that we have all of our studs exposed, we'll go ahead and grab our 18mm ratcheting wrench and remove our top mounting studs and get our strut out. So next we're going to go ahead and remove our upper control arm, and it is held on by these two mounting bolts here. So we're going to grab our 21mm socket on a breaker bar and a 21mm wrench to go ahead and get it loose. Then we'll switch out to a ratchet and go ahead and pull these out. Got that side loose. Now for this back one, you definitely want to be mindful of your lines here. There is room, you just want to exercise caution there. So now that we have our nuts off of our mounting bolts, we'll go ahead and support our control arm, pull those two bolts out, and remove our control arm. Now once you've got this process complete for this side, you can go ahead and repeat these same steps for the other side. So for this kit, we're going to need to disassemble our factory strut so we can add our spacer into the bottom of it for our spring, as well as go ahead and pull our top hat off so we can cut our studs. Now for demonstration purposes, we have some pre-cut ones. We'll show you the process of how you would cut yours at home. So we'll go ahead and compress this down, remove our top hat mounting nut, and go ahead and get our spring off so we can add our spacer and then reassemble this. Now to get our top hat nut off, we're going to be using an 18mm socket and extension on our impact. Now if you don't have that, you can use an 18mm ratcheting wrench or a pass-through ratchet with a small wrench to hold on to the stud. So So now that we have our strut body out, we can go ahead and remove this plastic bushing at the bottom of our spring base here. Go ahead and pop that off. And we're going to replace that with our provided spacer. Go ahead and stick that right on in its place. And now what you would do is go ahead and put your strut body back up into your spring and reinstall your top hat nut and tighten that down. We're going to go ahead and swap our top hat out, and then we'll come right back and do that process. So now we're going to reinstall our strut body into our spring, and you want to make sure where your top coil ends here, you have it marked that lines up with the center of the front of your strut body mounting points down bottom. So we'll go ahead and send that right back up in there. And reinstall our 18mm mounting nut. We'll get that lined up, and we'll go ahead and get that tightened back down. So now once you have it done for this side, you can go ahead and repeat the same steps for the other side. So now we can go ahead and install our provided control arm, which we're going to grab our provided hardware, so bolt and flat washers, and go ahead and get those in as the factory ones mounted. Go ahead and set this in place and get these on. So now we're going to grab our provided laser cut washers, as well as a flat washer and a locking nut. Go ahead and install that on each one of our mounting bolts. And we'll do the same thing for that one. Now this front one here, you may have to pull it back a bit like so you can get room to install your washers and your nut. Go ahead and pop that on, followed by our flat washer. And then our mounting nut. This one is a little bit tricky. So now we'll go ahead and tighten these down using our 22mm socket on our ratchet and a 22mm wrench. So now, as you can see, our mounting studs for our strut have been pre-trimmed. We use these for demonstration purposes. You at home are going to have to trim your factory studs. Now, if you notice the difference here, you're going to cut about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch off of each stud. Then you want to clean that up so that your spacer for your top hat can fit on and you can bolt that to it. Now once you've got your studs trimmed up and deburred, you can use a cutting wheel is the preferred method for that, and a flap wheel to clean up your burrs. We can go ahead and mount our top hat spacer. So this is only going to mount one way. Our holes are specific on these top hats. So we'll go ahead and get that in position, and we'll grab our provided 14mm flange nuts. Those are going to be the shorter height ones, and we'll go ahead and get this mounted. Then we'll grab a 14mm ratcheting wrench and tighten these down. So now we can get the top of our strut mounted back into our truck, and we're gonna grab our provided flange nuts to do so. So we'll get these in position, go ahead and loosely install these, and then we'll get the bottom sorted out. So now we are provided with new mounting hardware for our bottom strut mount. So we're gonna go ahead and pop these threaded clips off and install our new hardware. So we'll just grab a flathead screwdriver, go ahead and pop these out of their retainers. Can be a little bit tricky. So now we'll get our new mounting bolts in place. So we'll grab our bolt and a flat washer. Go ahead and get that through our control arm here. Do the same thing with this one. Then we'll add a flat washer and lock nut to the bottom side. Now we'll go ahead and tighten these down using a 17mm wrench and an 18mm socket on our impact. So now we'll grab our 15mm ratchet wrench and tighten down our upper mounting nuts. Now we'll go ahead and get our upper controller mounted to our knuckle. So we'll go ahead and pop this nut off. You may need a pry bar handy for this step. Go ahead and get this in position. So once we have that nut loosely in place, we'll come back and tighten this down. We can remove our bungee cord. So now we'll go ahead and tighten down our mounting nut with our 18mm socket. So now we're going to get ready to tighten down our upper control arm ball joint mounting nut with our 18mm socket and swivel adapter on our impact. Now we're just going to snug it down with this. You always want to refer to your manufacturer torque setting for all of your hardware. So next we'll get our outer tie rod back into position on our knuckle. Go ahead and reinstall our 21mm nut. Tighten that back down with our 21mm socket on our impact. So now we're going to go ahead and get our sway bar end link reinstalled to our lower control arm. And notice we have a pry bar that's just going to help us persuade that back into position, as it is a lot lower now. And we'll reinstall our 18mm nut. Then we'll go ahead and tighten it back down with our 18mm socket on our impact. So now we'll get our upper ABS bracket installed onto the new control arm. So we'll get it onto the stud here. And then we'll go ahead and get that in place with our 11mm lock nut. Then we'll go ahead and get our other 3 brackets reinstalled to our knuckle. So we'll get our rear knuckle bracket installed. Again, it's hard to see from that angle, but directly on the back side here. And we'll get that 10mm bolt reinstalled. Then we'll do our lower brake bracket as well as our lower ABS bracket. And we'll tighten these 3 down with our 10mm socket, and then this one with our 11mm socket. And now once you have this process complete for this side, you can go ahead and repeat these same steps for the other side. All right guys, so now we're gonna go ahead and start disassembling our rear. And what we're gonna do first is come to the inside of the driver's side of our frame here, right next to our shock. We're gonna remove the 2 bolts for the brake line bracket that's mounted on the frame. So we're gonna grab our 13mm socket on our ratchet and just go ahead and unbolt those 2 bolts. Go ahead and take those bolts out. And just let our brake line bracket hang. That's going to prevent excess tension while we lower our rear end down. And just for reference, this is where your bracket is between the bump stop and the rear shock on your driver's side. So now we've got our pole jacks underneath our differential supporting that. That is very key. You definitely want that supported. And then we'll go ahead and begin removing our rear shocks. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our 21mm socket and our impact and a 21mm wrench. That's gonna get the bottom bolts out on both shocks. And then for the top bolt, you will need the 21mm wrench, a swivel adapter, and extension on your impact. Now we'll go ahead and support our shock, pull our bolt out, go ahead and free our shock. Next we can come to our U-bolts, and we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 nuts holding those in place. So we'll grab our 21mm socket on our impact and run those off. And you want to support your cradle for your U-bolts. Once you have all those off, go ahead and pull our cradle. And then we can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. Now we can go ahead and lower our differential down to give us enough space to add our lifting blocks to our rear. You want to try to lower this as even as possible. We also have a pole jack in the middle on our yoke here, just to kind of keep the drive line at the correct angle. It's just helpful. So now that we've got our differential lowered down, we're going to go ahead and install our lifting blocks. Now, if you notice, these lifting blocks are not square. They do have a shorter and a taller end. The smaller end is going to go towards the front of the truck. The taller end is going to be at the back. So we're going to line up the dowel on the leaf spring and with the indent in the differential mount. We'll go ahead and slide this into place. And we'll bring this back up to line up with that dowel on the leaf spring. We'll have to adjust it just a hair. And once we get that in, go ahead and push this up. We'll get it pretty close. So now we'll get our new U-bolts in position. They're going to slide in right where the factory ones were. Now, these are quite a bit longer, so they may bow in just a hair. So if you need to pull them out, that's typically normal. Get that one in position. We'll do the same thing for the front one. Then we're going to reuse our factory cradle. Get that close. Now we can go ahead and loosely install our provided flat washers and locking nuts. Now we're going to run these up just a little bit snug for now, and we'll go ahead and get our lifting block and everything on the other side, and then we'll tighten them at the same time and keep them even as we tighten them down. So now we'll grab our 22 mil socket on our impact and snug these down. Now you want to alternate sides on when you're tightening them to keep the pressure even. Now that these are snug, we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side, then we'll come back and do our final tighten down. Now once you have these snug, you can trim the ends off of these U-bolts if you need a little bit more clearance to get onto the nut, but a deep socket should work. Now that we have both sides on, we'll go ahead and fully tighten this down. And always remember to refer to your manufacturer torque spec for all of your hardware. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our factory bump stops so we can add our spacers in, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall these. So we'll grab our 10 mil socket on our ratchet with a small extension and go ahead and get that mounting bolt out. So now we'll go ahead and grab our new mounting bolt, which is an 8mm Allen head. We're going to send that through our factory bump stop. We're going to go ahead and get our Allen wrench on the bolt. This makes things a lot easier for lining up. Grab our provided spacer, slide that onto the bolt, and go ahead and get this in place. Then you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So now we're going to grab our factory shocks and we're going to install our provided extenders to the top mounting points. So we'll go ahead and slip this over. Install our provided bolt and flat washer through the shock mount. Then we'll go ahead and install our flat washer and our locking nut on the other side. Now we'll grab our 22mm socket on our impact and a 22mm wrench and tighten these down. So now we can go ahead and install our shock. So we'll go ahead and put our extender into our factory upper mount here. This might be a bit of a tight squeeze for it, but it will go. A little bit of persuasion. And once you get that lined up, we'll go ahead and reuse that factory 21mm bolt. Reinstall this. Next, we'll go ahead and line back up our bottom shock mount here, and then we'll go ahead and tighten both of these down at the same time. So we'll use our pole jack to lift up on our differential just a bit. Now that we've got this lined up, we'll go ahead and reinstall our lower mounting bolt. Go ahead and get that nut back on. Then we'll tighten both of these down and do the same thing for the other side. So now we'll tighten these back down with our 21mm wrench and our 21mm socket. So now before we reinstall the driver's side shock, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall this brake line bracket. There's no extension or anything needed. We're gonna go ahead and reuse our factory 13mm bolts and just bolt this back into place. Alrighty guys, that about wraps up our review and install of our ReadyLift 4-inch SST suspension lift kit for your 19 to current 4-wheel drive Sierra 1500, excluding the AT4 and Denali. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Sierra, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.